It's time for a lesson in wireless consolidation. Now stick with me, folks, because on a global basis, this is one of those most confusing issues. Now first I'm going to draw the entire world. The world's a big place. And over here in this little corner of the world is South Korea. And they're on a technology called CDMA for talking to each other on their cell phones. Now in Europe, if you were coming from South Korea, they would be over here on a technology called GPRS. And guess what? The two are incompatible with each other, so if you're coming from here to here, you can't talk to folks in Europe. Now, in the US, we tried to make things simpler, or maybe more difficult. In the US, we use CDMA. We also use GPRS. And we also use another technology called IDEN. Now, there was only one company providing IDEN technology, and that was Nextel. And then on the GPRS network, we had companies like AT&T, Singular, and we also had T-Mobile. T-Mobile, a subsidiary of a European company. And lastly, on the CDMA network, we had Verizon and Sprint. Now, if you were a Verizon or a Sprint user, then you could go over and talk to people in South Korea. How nice is that? But you would not be able to talk to people in Europe. That's a no-no. Don't try to take Verizon or Sprint phone into Europe and talk to people there. Likewise, people in Europe couldn't come and talk to you. However, if you were on the AT&T, Singular, or T-Mobile based networks, GPRS, then you could roam freely back and forth between the US and Europe. However, you couldn't go to South Korea. How confusing is that? Well, now what's happening is all of these guys are merging into one company. Well, maybe not one company, but a few companies. For example, Sprint bought Nextel. Well, that's pretty good news because they're going to pretty much dump all the Nextel technology and stay with Sprint. That means if you were a Nextel user and you couldn't roam anywhere, now you can. AT&T, Singular Mobile, well, there was actually a merger in that space too. AT&T merged with Singular. So now there's only two GPRS providers in the US, and all of the customers of them can come over to Europe and they can wander around Europe and make calls there. Verizon, still pretty much on their own, in negotiations now with MCI. A lot of stuff to keep track of here if you're traveling around the world. Fine print here is wherever you're going, coverage matters. Make sure you buy the technology that's going to work in the place that you're going to.